Hi guys, welcome to my channel Lush Gardener. I hope you guys are fine and are safe. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about a very beautiful succulent called as Echeveria Raspberry Eyes. Now this variety belongs to the Echeveria Elegance variety. It sounds a little confusing because a lot of people think that Echeveria Elegance is just one succulent, but it is actually a division, and then these succulents are all under the subdivision. I'll put the image on the screen and you will be able to see what I'm talking about. So basically Echeveria Elegance is not a genus. Echeveria is the genus. These are under the division, and then you have the subdivision. Under Echeveria Elegance there are a couple of succulents, like you have Echeveria Onslow, and then you have Echeveria Mexican Snowball, and then you have Echeveria Raspberry Eyes. Now these are all basically the cultivars that have been created under the name of Echeveria Elegance. These are not the cultivars, but then these are the new cultivars that are coming up. Now I'm not very sure, but I've heard that there is something called as ice cream or raspberry or raspberry ice. Like there are a couple of them that are under the name. Now I'm not very sure if the names are just made up by the sellers or whether they are actual such names, because when these cultivars come up in the market, they actually do not have a lot of information because they are not registered as a proper hybrid or a proper cultivar. They are just being created into cultivars and sold in the market, so there is not much information exactly what is the parentage and where it was created and all that stuff. It's just made into cultivars and directly released in the market, so we don't know a lot of information about it. But as far as we know, this is called as Echeveria Raspberry Eyes. It's an extremely beautiful succulent. Now I have termed it as medium because it will be little difficult for a lot of beginners to grow these varieties, because these are very delicate when it comes to in the terms of succulents. They have very thin leaves. Usually Echeverias do not have such thin leaves, but these are very thin leaves. They tend to grow in clumps. Ideally they do not prefer a very high humid environment. They prefer a cool and a dry environment. They tend to put out a lot of pups. You can separate the offsets, and once they reach a decent size, and you can even do a leaf propagation as well. Leaf propagation takes some time. Now these usually do not have like a lot of stem. They tend to stay very compact and closer to the ground. All of the varieties are the same way. You can see the leaves of the way you can differentiate an elegance is the leaves. The shape of the leaves are more like a spoon. They resemble a lot like the spoon. Now this one, I'm not very sure if this is a Mexican snowball because it looks very different from the rest of them, but the rest of them are a Mexican snowball. They look a little different because they have been kept in indirect bright light. They are just getting acclimated to morning direct sunlight. Now this one will turn even more red in color, not red, but it's going to turn more pink in color as in when I expose it to morning direct sunlight. It's an extremely easy to grow succulent, but what I advise is whenever you have a succulent like this, try not to disturb the mother plant. Do not disturb the root ball, because usually once they are disturbed, it's very difficult for them to bounce back. So I always advise you to keep these succulents in the same container. Do not keep repotting them. If you want to separate the offsets, you can just do it without taking the succulent out, and you can just multiply. I would advise to give it morning direct sunlight for 5 to 6 hours only. After acclimation, wait for the soil to be completely bone dry before going ahead and watering. Mealybugs are not much of an issue, but at times they do get affected, especially when the succulent is not doing quite well. When it's not in the best health, they do get affected with mealybugs. Aphids will come in if there are any blooms, so if you're not interested in the blooms, just cut it off. Wait for the soil to be completely bone dry and then go ahead and water, but do not water it too much, because as you can see, the leaves are not very thick. They cannot store a lot of water. So do not keep them overwatered, or do not keep them underwatered for a very long time. Have a proper watering schedule and you should be good enough. The soil remains the same. It has to be loose, porous and well draining. The nutrients in the soil should be less, because it belongs to an Echeveria variety. They don't prefer to have too much of they do not prefer to have too much of nutrients in the soil. Because it belongs to the genus of Echeveria, it will soon get into its growing period during the summers, and winter was its dormant period. So guys, nothing much about this variety. It's a pretty simple succulent to grow, provided that you give it the basic care requirements, which is the loose, porous and well draining soil, a good amount of sunlight like 5 to 6 hours morning direct sunlight only after acclimation, or you can give it indirect bright light. If you're a person who tends to only receive afternoon direct sunlight, then you'll have to use a shade cloth or a green net to provide it with filtered light. Watering again, whenever the soil is completely bone dry, ensure that you keep a notepad wherein you can just write down when was the last time you watered. This is going to make things very easy, especially if you're just starting off with growing succulents. Or if you are worried about overwatering, just check for the lower leaves. They will have wrinkles, which means that the succulent is ready for water. So guys, I hope that this video was helpful to you. If it was, please hit the like button. If you're new to my channel, please consider subscribing to it. Until then, take care, stay safe and keep propagating.